Alright, welcome back to my unbiased opinion of what is the greatest training vlog on YouTube right now. Today we're going to be doing some jumps, cleans, trap bar movements, some accessory stuff, and we're just going to get straight into it today. So, two jumps that I have planned today. The first one is kind of like a reactive warm-up. I'm not looking at trying to progress this specifically for the weeks coming. I'm just using this as getting a little bit more reactive work. Something that I don't normally do in a lot of my jumping is any kind of lateral work. So today we're going to be adding in some lateral movements with our jumping, and then we're going to go into a seated variation. So the first one I'm going to do is I have a box here. I'm going to laterally hop off the box, catch myself on one leg, and try to pop myself back onto the box, catch myself, pause for a second, and go back and forth. Probably do about 4 to 5 reps on each side, multiple sets on this. Because it's more of a warm-up focus than it is actually trying to progress this movement. The first couple sets I'm just going to start off easy, and then the last 2 sets I'm going to be building in intensity and trying to really pop off that ground and get back up to the box as quickly as possible. So, first couple sets again, warm-ups. So set number 1, nice and easy. Set number 2, we're going to try to get a little bit more springy off the ground. So, first 2 sets, nice and easy. Set number 3, we're going to try to extend that out a little bit further. So the further you move laterally, the more force you're going to have to overcome and explode back to get back to the box. First 2 sets, warm it up. Set number 3, try to extend that out a little bit. And then set number 4, go for as far as you can. The distance on the jump should be dictated by your ability to overcome that landing and explode back towards the box. So if you're going too far and you can't get yourself off the ground, shorten that jump up a little bit, work on getting off the ground quickly. As you get more comfortable with that, then you can start extending that jump out a little bit more. So don't just start and go for broke trying to get as long as you can. The idea on this is just get some sort of reactive warm-up, hit the ground, get off the ground, build intensity, and then move on to what is going to be our actual first focus of our explosive movements today, which is going to be a different variation on a seated box jump. Almost fell on that 3rd rep there. Alright, last set for these lateral hops. This elevation here doesn't need to be super high. What that elevation is going to do is essentially increase the amount of ground force you're going to experience on this lateral movement over here. So if I were just jumping side to side, it's a lot more horizontal than it is with any kind of vertical emphasis. So when you start from an elevated position, and you're jumping over, you're going to have more of a drop as you come down onto the ground. A higher drop means higher ground contact force, more force you need to overcome, more force you need to produce in order to get back over to the box. It's not a lot different than if you were to just kind of stay on the side and think about jumping up and down. It's just an easier way to go back and forth. So, short elevation on this, don't need a whole lot. Last set here. Trying to really just extend out a little bit, spring off the ground, get yourself back to the box. And there you have it. Alright, so second thing we're going to do today, which is going to be the main focus of our jump variation from a deep hip and deep knee flexion just to work different joint angles, be explosive from it. Generally, the deeper you are, the harder it is to be explosive out of those positions, just because leverage points are going to be a little bit different. So working on those deep ranges is never a bad thing. We're trying to be more explosive. I like to think of it as it's kind of like a deep squat versus a half squat. The stronger you are in your deep squat, more than likely the stronger you're going to be in your half squat. You have a shorter range of motion. You have a greater ability to produce force at those specific joint angles. If you build that strength past those joint angles, a lot of times you can increase the strength at those other shorter joint angles. So working a deep range motion type jump is something I like to do every once in a while. This is going to be today's variation. With this seated variation, you can do the same thing as I did earlier this week with those, where you can kind of go into a rocker into that jump. As long as your hips are staying in contact. The big thing when going from a deep range of motion on a box jump is you want to feel that you're creating that force right from that seated position. There will be people who are going to get to this position and they're not going to be able to produce force fast enough to be explosive from here. If that's you, you want to raise up that box a little bit to try to get to the point where you can explode off. How you'll know if you're that person or not is if you set up a camera, film yourself doing these jumps. What you'll see some people do is they'll rock into it and then they're going to lift themselves up and then they'll start their jump from this position. They're not actually starting to jump from that block. They're starting to rock into it. They get into a position where they can produce force at a high rate, and then they explode from that position. You want to be able to get from right here, boom, explode off that box as quickly as possible. So if you're doing these, film yourself from the side, watch it in slow motion. If you see that you pick yourself up and then you start to explode, a big cue of that is like you'll see when your arms start to swing. So if you start to swing immediately off the bottom, you're probably producing a lot of force. If you see yourself keeping those arms back and then you start to swing, that's probably the position that you're producing your force from. Bring that block up a little bit, get to a position where you can try to get it right off the get-go. So I'm going to do sets of 2 on this, somewhere around 4 to 5. Alright, set number 2. Actually, you know what we're going to do today? We'll build up a little bit. So the box height here, 75 centimeters. We'll build up a little bit and just try to extend that. As long as we're landing above parallel from hip to knee, we'll kind of build that up and just kind of see where things are at today. So we've added some mats on top. 75 centimeters is roughly 30 inches. I think it's just below 30 inches. Each one of these mats is about a ½ inch. I've got 4 of those on there right now. So I'd rather round down versus rounding up. So we're going to call this 29 inches plus 2. So we're at 31 inches on the box. Seated position. One thing I should probably mention, from this deeper range of motion, you probably don't want to be in kind of like a deep squat where you're going to be like if this was my squatting position, I'm not going to be very powerful out of this. You're going to want to have those legs and feet closer in together. Try to line up hips, knees, ankles, and explode from a deep position here versus kind of like if you were in a deep squat. I feel stronger producing force from here at this position than I would from a deep squat position. So bring those feet in a little bit, get closer together, and then explode through. We're gonna add 2 more mats. All right, we're at about 32 inches right now. So I've done 3 sets. I'll do 2 more. So we're at 29 inches on the box, plus 2, 4, 6 mats. Each mat is a ½ inch, so add 3 inches to that. 29 plus 3, 32 inches. One more set left. We're gonna add 2 more mats. All right, last set on these. 29, 30, 31, 32, 33 inches on the box. There you have it. So from the jumps, we're going to go into what I consider a high block power clean. I'm going to use straps. Whether or not you agree with that, doesn't matter. As long as you have the ability to get into a good front rack position, you have the ability to manage the weight that you're trying to do, and you're not just going for broke trying to max out. Using straps on a power clean isn't a bad idea. One, it's going to take out the weakest part of the lift, which is the grip, allow you to put more force into the bar, not have to worry about trying to hold on to that bar, which is kind of the focus on what I'm doing today. So we're going to do sets of 2 on the cleans today. Build up somewhere, probably around 155, 160. And then do somewhere around 4 to 6 sets. So I'm gonna start warming up on this. Once I get to about 140, I'll probably have a good idea on where my working sets are gonna be at. I may even just start counting my sets from 140 and just build up to something that's moderately heavy for a set of 2 today. I don't really have a very specific progression for the clean right now, other than just building to heavy 2s. Next week we'll do heavy singles. And then the next training block, we're going to drop the bar down a little bit more and just go off of 1 block versus 2. So that's the thought in my head right now. As you guys probably know, things are always changing. I'm kind of moving things around as I continue to go through my training sessions. So we'll figure it out. But 4 to 6 sets, 2 reps on this, building something that's going to be a moderately heavy double for the day. Forgot to film my first warm-up sets, but I went 70, 125, 145, now we're at 155. I'm counting 145, so we'll see how 155 feels. This is probably going to be my first working set because 145 felt a little heavy, but we'll see how 155 here feels. The important thing when using blocks is you want to get as much tension onto that bar prior to actually moving it. So if you can listen, I don't know if you guys can hear this on the camera, but that little bit of movement, you want to take that slack out of the bar before you start to move it. So you should be feeling tension in the hamstrings, tension in the back. You should be having a good grip onto that bar and then trying to explode through. You don't want to be relaxed and then try to yank up against that bar. So create as much tension as you can prior to the movement and then explode. Second set. Much better set than the first one. Alright, we're going to throw some 5s on. No, 2.5s on, so we're going to throw 5 more kilos onto the bar. We'll do a couple sets at 160 and then probably call it after that. That was sloppy. Bar got too far out in front of me. That was much better.
First one just to make sure I got it in a good position. A little wide, but I'll take it. So 4 sets of 2 on those, building to a moderately heavy double. Next week, I might just try to max out on this and try to see where I'm at, but we'll decide when we get there. So done with the cleans. We're gonna move on to some trap bar now. We're gonna do some trap bar. This is gonna be more of an emphasis on bar speed than it is load. If anything, what I'm trying to mimic is kind of a clean pull variation, but using a trap bar versus using a straight bar. So we're going to be trying to get up, shrug at the top, move the bar quickly versus just doing a regular trap bar deadlift. So what that'll look like is this might be a little bit off since the bar is light, but we're going to start from that lower position, explode to the top, get a slight shrug at the top, maybe even get up onto the toes, and then just try to load this up somewhere around 180 to 190 kilos, and then we'll just do sets of 2 on the trap bar today. So I'm going to do a few warm-up sets, build up to that 180-ish range, give or take, and then we'll knock out, again, somewhere between 4 to 6 reps on the trap bar. All right, we got the trap bar loaded up. This is 185. The barbell itself is 25 kilos, so it looks like 175, 80, but it's 185 because of the barbell. So when doing these, what I'm thinking about doing is from the ground, I'm not trying to just explode off the ground as quickly as possible. I want to be a little bit more patient and powerful through the first portion of getting this barbell off the ground. And then as the barbell is moving, I'm trying to accelerate it through the entire motion as I get up to the top. So you're going to be thinking about patient and strong, and then go, 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 and get up to those toes, and a little bit of a shrug at the top. Between the sets, we'll do 5 reps, or we'll do 5 sets on these, and then we'll finish off with a little bit of accessory work for the day. Accessory work today, we're going to combine both movements into a superset. So first one, using the glute ham developer, we're going to do a single leg hip extension. So 1 foot in the straps. You can load this up. I'm going to use a medicine ball today. You don't need to go very heavy on this, but what the focus is going to be is trying to maintain a stable torso, work on flexion in the hip, and then you're going to think about driving the back of this ankle into that pad. Feel the hamstring and glute, pulling yourself back up towards the top. So you want the pad to be somewhere in that hip crease to allow for flexion in the hip. So we're going to be looking at getting some flexion, driving the heel. Six reps on each side for this first one. And then the second one, we're going to be trying to work the hip flexor. So on this, Feel that you got your hips or your sit bones on the top. You're gonna put one leg into the GHD. You're gonna maintain a little bit of flexion in the knee here. Maintain a stable torso. You're looking at getting extension in the hip. And then the exact opposite thing. You're looking at pulling with this leg as hard as you can to flex the hip quickly out of that bottom. So you don't want to see flexion and extension to a great amount throughout the torso. You just want to see extension in the hip, knee is still bent, explode to the top. So what I'm trying to do with this leg here is maintain some dorsiflexion. Feel that I've got a good hook on that pad, and then I'm just trying to pull that pad towards my hip as quickly as possible, focusing mostly on getting that hip flexor to work throughout this. So maintaining a bent knee will take the quad out of it a little bit. If you have an extended leg, you're more than likely going to try to extend your leg as you pull yourself up, which is going to involve the quad more. So get the hips on top of the pad, keep a bend in that knee, maintain that torso angle. Right here, I'm at hip extension, boom, hip flexion. And there you have it. So I'm gonna do probably 3 sets on this, knock those out. So I appreciate you guys watching the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you made it all the way to the end, you're a real one, and I'll see you in the next one.